dominated church, but that's not and this gets back to what I said earlier, understanding language and the roots of language is very important. So we are an ecclesia, we're a body politic under a private society and having the full right to have standing as an ecclesiastical body. And I've proven this and road tested it many, many times, as well as the status correction process. Years ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago, when I started formulating all of this, I knew that it was going to have to come straight up face to face in being tested in real world terms. And it did, starting about 5 years ago. I had the IRS come and pay their respects. I had the SEC, the FBI, all the bodies, the courts and so forth. And every single time, by properly doing status correction and doing the way that we do it with how to deal with what it comes at us as a commercial offer, commercial instrument that has embedded equity, how to convert that to our own equitable interest that we can apply to settlement. That's very different than saying I accept it for value and I send it back to you.
I see.
You learn that in the status correction course. So, and then we can create, because our private society as an ecclesiastical body, any society has the full right and authority to create its own law form, its own jurisdiction, its own court, its own treasury, which means its own monetary issue, if done properly. If not done properly, you end up crossing over from where you think you are back into their system, and that's where you get in trouble. But we do know what we're doing, and we have perfected it. We've perfected it in terms of the society as a whole and individual beings who have done status correction or contracted within our private court system to set up the proper structure of an estate that's not in the public. And that's what we call the estate structure. So right now, getting back to your question of do we promote meditation or any of these things, not directly, but we strongly promote and emphasize, like I said earlier, the inner work, dealing with the karma, dealing with the trauma. We're layered with many layers of trauma. We're layered with many layers of social or familial or racial or national indoctrination, belief systems is the catch-all phrase. And we have to remove all that because those are the threads that bind us to a false reality in the matrix. And so really dealing with that, whether someone chooses to do meditation or inner trauma work or whatever, we do have a lot of depth in terms of our own experience, and many of our members have a lot of experience in different modalities of healing. And so it's a comprehensive whole to heal oneself at every level, including status level. And so right now we are in a transition. We are not taking new members at this time. We're just setting up, and it'll be ready in the next day or so, a method for people to request to be reviewed or interviewed and submit some answers to questions, do an essay, and be interviewed to be considered for membership. The reason we're doing that is because we've gotten to the point where we don't need members to come in and do the donations for the courses and or general membership. And so we're switching everything to an entirely new system. The real price that we're bringing, that we're requesting our members and new members coming in, we don't want your Federal Reserve notes or your Canadian dollars or any fiat currency. The price of admission is one's being and one's passion and one's commitment to be fully committed to doing the work inner and outer and being part of a unified whole that's doing the work in the larger whole of what we have to do to literally transform this world. We have the resources to do that. We have significant projects all over the world. Right now we have a standing contract with the country of Sierra Leone to come in and completely implement new infrastructure for housing, medical, educational, doing large-scale infrastructure projects and things like that, literally as a full template or a model for any other country to repeat or replicate in their own country.
Wow.
So we need beings of real passion that's here to commit to being part of creating a new world. We have the tools, we have the law form, we have the jurisdiction, we have the knowledge, and we also have the resources to do this now. So we've shifted over, and we're in the process right now in the next week or so, to where if anybody wants to come work and play with us, there's a lot of incredible things that we're doing, but we want to know who you are. Because for 6 years, we had our door wide open. It's just like we opened the door to the house, we said to the neighbors or travelers or anybody who is around, come on in and partake for a very minor donation in everything we're doing. In the most part, we got incredible beings, people who have now become part of our ecclesia, our body politic. But we also got some very nasty people. We got some real agents and real undermining forces that we had to deal with in many ways. It was a lot of karmic stuff, a lot of energetic stuff. It was all appropriate for the period, but we're done with that. We only are interested in people who are willing to step up with their being and their passion and their commitment.
And bring some sort of focus, whether it be like healthcare
Yeah.
or, whatever aspect they're trained in, but be passionate in their purpose and present that basically to you and say, here's what I've learned, or here's what I feel called to do. And
Right.
be genuine and authentic is probably a big part of
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right. Or come in as a gem in the rough that needs to be polished. So I mean, we're looking for young people who do have that sort of natural enthusiasm to be part of this. We're not looking to be part of the tronic, mind controlled Borg system that the other side of the equation is trying to push humanity into transhumanistic Borg hive mind reality. A lot of the young people are already far gone into that, but we're looking for those still with a spark of life who may not be polished or complete with professional skills, whatever. And that's why we're an educational body as well. We plan to build a global education and media. We're going to build a architecture to create a truly laissez-faire, free media and educational system, and set it up or create it and have it available over the time it's going to take to build it, a year or two. But our intention and the goal that I know we will fulfill is creating a media alliance where everybody, such as yourself, who's doing media now through Skype and YouTube, it'll be a fully integrated platform to do it as you're doing it, without the censorship and the control and the suppression that many people are dealing with now. So it's a very comprehensive whole system. And the way to get the basic framework of understanding it is you go to gemstoneuniversity.org, and on that front page, on the left side, you will see a few links, one of which is to something called the Master Plan. If you read that, it will give you in 80 pages a comprehensive picture of where we're going. The other document is in the center on a green banner. It's called the Overview of the World System. If you read those two documents, you will understand how the world system has put us all into bondage, separated us from life, and has parasitically been using our life force to create our own prison and containment field, and how we can get out of it.
And then once someone is interested, so I know you said there's a few days till you've got the next setup going, but say they're like, I'm in Canada, say there's people in Australia or elsewhere, because you're based in the United States. What does that mean for people, internationally? Or do you have plans for setting up in different countries? Is that,
Yeah.
that's the idea? Okay.
Yeah.
And then like sequestering land, purchasing land, and then going through that process with the land and then building on the land, or when all
Mhm.
these people die in the second wave, I guess there'll be a lot of extra houses to buy, perhaps, but
Well, yeah, I'm not depending on looking on people dying.
I know I'm just trying to
Yeah.
make light of
Um,
something dark, but yeah.
but let me answer the first part, which is that we're already very globally deployed and very well integrated and functioning. We have members in Canada, Australia, um, South Africa, New Zealand, UK. So those are the five major Commonwealth countries under the British Empire and all of that system.
Mm-hmm.
So we're 2 to 3 years into doing the research to migrate or transpose the status correction course and the estate structure implementation into all the Commonwealth countries. Okay, so that
Okay.
obviously includes Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody comes on as a member like you in Canada, then not only are you connected to the whole global society, but also to the Canadian people who are active in putting this in place. Um, Same in Australia and so forth. So on a macro scale, it's important to understand we have three basic law forms on the planet that covers almost all the countries. Actually, that's not true. Four. The fourth one is Sharia law.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not even want to touch that or try to,
Mm-hmm.
penetrate that in any way because of the nature of how that's constructed. But in terms of the rest of the world, you have three forms. You have the United States system, you have the Commonwealth system on foundation of common law, and you have the Roman civil law system. The one thing that is universal with all of them is they are all under military conquest. So Rome, 2,000 years more or less, give or take 200 on each side, conquered the known world, all of Europe, parts of Africa, etc. So that was Roman conquest, military conquest. Nothing has changed since then. Supposedly, the Western Roman Empire fell in 476, but it didn't. It just migrated into other forms. It migrated into the church. It migrated into the Holy Roman Empire. It remained in the Byzantine Empire and the Orthodox Eastern Church until close to 1500. But what is universally the case is that all countries have been conquered militarily, because the Holy Roman Empire conquered all of Latin America, and they're in the Roman civil law system. Civil law is a system used to maintain the civil body that's lifted off of the land into the containment field under military control, conquest, and occupation, and bankruptcy. So
Mm-hmm.
when you see civil codes, you're talking about the codes of operation of what a conquered people or a bankrupt people must operate within the conquest and the bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the British Empire ostensibly had a basis or foundation of common law, English common law, but they all ultimately were converted into militarily conquered and occupied.
Mm-hmm.
Once that was all done, that was all shifted into the United Nations, the IMF, the World Bank, the Bank of International Settlements, out of the three city-states, the three triple crown that was
London.
declared in 1302, and the Pope declared that I own all the land, the flesh, and the souls,
Mm-hmm.
and created a triple crown: Vatican City, City of London, Washington, D.C.,
Mm-hmm.
for three specific purposes: to control the spiritual
Finance.
or emotional level, to control the law and the banking level out of the City of London, and to control commercial and military control through D.C. Okay. And that's an outpicturing of our three actual centers. So it's really just nothing more than the outpicturing or the externalized projection of 8 billion human beings who should be self-contained with sovereign integrity, with their physical and their emotional and their mental and their spiritual whole being operating as a sovereign integral being.
And
But
each
we,
of those cities have those obelisks as well, those Egyptian
right,
symbols
yeah,
to mark that.
exactly, yeah. Um, so by correcting our status, by leaving whatever you want to call it, Babylon or the Matrix, we are calling in our being, our fragmented pieces, soul shards that have been taken into alternate realities and different dimensions. We call them in. We can revoke those contracts in the consent and the presumption of consent to call ourselves back into wholeness. And the more we are whole, the more power of real creation we have. And then if we have a jurisdictional field to focus in that they can't pierce or penetrate, then we have a new creational field to start reconstituting this creational realm to be one of living, of life, and working and being together as a living creation.
Wow. I have someone asking in the chat for your birthday. I guess I want to know your astrological
Okay,
information
sure.
because of the way that you present so nicely.
Yeah. I'd be happy to give it to you. March 14th, 1954, 1:32 a.m.
Aries.
No,
No,
Pisces.
Pisces. Oh, I always mix
Yeah.
that up.
Pisces with Sagittarius rising and
Wow.
Cancer moon.
A Cancer moon. Nice. I know a
Mm,
lot of Cancer moons.
okay.
So there you
And,
go.
and, and a grand trine in water,
Wow.
which enabled me to flow the path of least resistance to get to where I am today.
Beautiful. That's a wonderful setup.